So here we are, still in the summer series in week 6 of 12. So we'll be halfway finished after this week. Remember that this series is all about kind of sticking with your practice, even in the midst of the interruptions of summer travel and stuff like that. So you can jump back and forth between weeks. They don't build on each other. You can maybe go back to a practice that you really liked and maybe the practice off the mat that appeals to you, like sitting in silence or walking really slowly. So this week we are all about service and encountering others, community. So I thought that I would introduce a little bit of yoga philosophy, which some of you may have heard already. It's about the yamas and the niyamas. They're kind of like the 10 commandments of yoga. And I'm just going to talk about the yamas as another way of thinking about being in the world with others, similar to the fruits of the spirit that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So the yamas. First is ahimsa. You've probably heard of that, and do no harm to yourself or others. And then there's satya, which is truth-telling, and asteya, which is non-stealing. Then brahmacharya, moderation in all things. And then finally aparigraha, non-grasping or not hoarding. So we can think about how we practice those on the mat, and that helps us to practice them with others off the mat. So kind of the culmination of the practice would be this. It's the quote that Barbara Brown Taylor starts the 6th chapter with. Walk joyfully on the earth and respond to that of God in every human being. So that's the goal of our practice. That's why we get on the mat. In the spirit of that, we're going to do 2 different breathing practices. The first is going to be single nostril breathing, they're both based on the energy channels in the body. And then there's alternate nostril breathing, which is kind of balancing. So we're going to start by just breathing out of your left nostril, and it's a way to calm the body, quiet the mind. If you breathe only out of your right nostril, it would be kind of like jacking you up, giving you more energy. So if you go on a long car trip and you start to get sleepy behind the wheel, close off your left nostril and breathe out of your right nostril for a couple of minutes. See if that helps you get a little more energy going. So I invite you to sit up tall, sitting on a block. So there's the very first place we could practice truthfulness. Are my hips and hamstrings really tight? Do I need to be sitting up on a block to get my spine straight? So being true with ourselves in the practice. So you might want to close your eyes. And then when you're ready, close off your right nostril. So we're just going to be here breathing out of the left nostril only. Now remember, if these breath practices give you any sense of anxiety or panic, just let them go and breathe naturally. So as your mind starts to settle, maybe you think of a way that you can practice one of the yamas: no harm, truthfulness, non-stealing, moderation, or not hoarding on the mat. And set that as your intention. Couple more breaths out of the left nostril. And let that go. Just breathe normally. Perhaps you noticed a more centered sense of calm. So we're going to go ahead and warm our spine from this seated position. Remember, you could always sit up on a chair. I've got a yoga bolster here too. You could always use a couple of pillows stacked. There are many ways to do our practice to make it work for you. For instance, when we go into a low lunge, you might want to put a bolster there, hold on to a chair, and then put your bottom knee on the bolster, and that's going to be, an easier range of motion if you have a hard time getting up and down off the floor. So let's do this, warming the spine. On an inhale, get tall. On an exhale, twist to one side. Stay here. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, maybe twist a little bit more if it's right for you. Keep your shoulders level. Inhale, get tall. Back of the neck long. Exhale, twist a little bit more. And then release. And come on back to neutral. Keep your low belly working, pulling in. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, twist to the other side. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, twist a little bit more. And again. And then come on back to neutral. So let's get the muscles of our back moving a little bit. Inhaling, take your arms up, maybe the palms touch. Turn your palms facing out. And exhaling down. So again, do no harm, do what's right for your shoulders. And exhale down. And again, inhaling, arms up. And turning out, exhaling down. Good. And then come on to all fours. So pad your knees if that's helpful. So as you go through your practice, maybe noticing, we do twists, we do spine extensions, we do forward folds, we do one-legged balances. Maybe there's a place where you especially need to apply the yamas to your practice. So if it's safe for your spine, on inhale, take your tailbone up, and then starting from the base of the spine, stretch the spine long as you take the crown of the head up as well. And then start from the tailbone, drop the tailbone, and curling mid-back toward the ceiling. Maybe the head drops or not. Do that a couple more times. Inhaling. Always starting motion from the pelvis. And exhaling, hollow out. And again, inhaling, gently arch. And exhaling, hollow out. And then come on back to neutral. Take your hips just from side to side. Just check in with the hip joint. So then we're going to make some circles with our rib cage, just like we do when we're seated, right? So I'm going to take my ribs forward and to the left, and then out to the side, and then around back, hollowing out. And go over to the right, and forward and go around a couple more times. It's kind of a good way to check in with your knees, and your hips, and your shoulders, fingers spread wide. Come on back to neutral, and then go the other direction. Just making circles with the rib cage. One more time. And then come on back to neutral. We're going to take a child's pose, so maybe you take your knees a little bit wider, big toes together, rock your hips back towards your heels, checking in with your knees today. Maybe you want to stick a block between your hips and your heels, or put your arms on a chair. You could drop your forehead to a block. So find your best version of child's pose. Just take a few breaths. So Barbara talks a lot about the Desert Fathers in this chapter. People who, in the 3rd and 4th centuries, left their communities to try and get closer to God. But they were never really alone. They always checked in with one another, even if they were miles apart. Holding each other accountable. We're going to do that with our yoga practice. And somehow we all connect to something bigger than ourselves. So nice deep forward fold, pull your low belly in, coming back to all fours. Maybe move that prop if you used it. Bring your knees back in line with your hips. Rock your hips forward and just slowly and gently drop your hips toward the mat, exploring a spinal extension. Right? Maybe rock the hips from side to side. Always making the spine longer. Shouldn't be any pain in the low back. And then pull your low belly and come back to all fours. So we're going to take the left leg forward, dropping the hips down. So spinal extension, maybe you want to inhale your arms up, make sure you're nice and stable. Inhale here. Exhaling, we're going to fold toward that front thigh, lift the hips up and back, draw your toes back. You could do this whole thing sitting in a chair. Right? Or again, you could have your knee on a bolster and holding on to the chair. So we're going to do that one more time. Inhaling, sweep the arms up, extending the spine. And then exhaling, hollow out, hips up and back, nice deep forward fold. So come back to that low lunge. Inhale, keep your spine long, and exhale, find some twist. So maybe your hands resting on a chair, maybe your elbows to the outside of your thigh. Maybe you want to open your arms up. Couple of breaths here. And exhaling, gently release. Curl those back toes under. We're going right to warrior two. So lift that back thigh, turn the heel down and in. Again, holding onto the chair or going against a wall if it's helpful. Rotate your shoulders right back over your hips. So another good place to practice those yamas, right? Maybe it doesn't work for your body to stay in a static pose. Maybe you need to bend and straighten your front leg. Right? Everybody is different. So no expectations about what your body's supposed to look like in this pose. One more breath. Then you're going to windmill yourself back to maybe the block or the mat or a chair and come to your version of downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths here. And you would walk it out wherever you are, fingers wide, upper arms pulling towards the ears. So soften the knees, pull your low belly in, and come on to your elbows. So just a little core work here, right? We're going to walk our toes back, coming to your version of a low plank. Take a few breaths here. Should be one nice long line from the heels or your knees out through the crown of the head. And then float the knees down. And just for a brief moment, come back to that child's pose. Just accepting wherever you are today. Accepting our authentic selves is the first step toward accepting others. So we're going to come back to all fours. I'm just going to turn around so I won't have my back to you. All right. So we'll bring the right foot forward. Spinal extension first. So inhaling up, couple breaths here. And then exhaling, lift your hips up and back, draw your toes back towards your knee, hamstring stretch, deep forward fold. And then again, inhaling, spinal extension. And exhaling, deep forward fold. Inhaling, come back to get your body weight on that front foot and decide what twist works for you, right? Moderation in all things. Brahmacharya. Couple of deep breaths. Just the right amount of effort and ease. Release the twist, keep your spine long, curl your back toes under, getting ready for warrior two on this other side. So heel to arch alignment. Nice. So settling into your best version of your pose. And then windmill yourself around so that we can find our downward facing dog. Again, hands on the chair, knees bent if you need. Full expression of the pose for you. Maybe nod your head yes, shake your head no. And soften your knees and walk your feet into meet your hands just so that you can sit down into your heels. Bring your hands to your thighs, crown of the head out long. And come on up to standing. Inhale, sweep your arms up in the air, drop your tailbone. Find your Tadasana. And then exhale your hands to your heart center. Take a moment to notice how your body feels. Okay, so 2 one-legged balances. First, tree pose. So you might shift your weight into your left leg. Find something to look at that's not moving. So don't watch me. Another great place to practice truthfulness with yourself. Hold on to the wall or chair. Maybe you want to take your arms up. Maybe you want to keep your palms pressing together. Or maybe it's better to release them. And exhaling, come back to Tadasana. If your tongue is on the roof of your mouth, let it rest behind your bottom teeth. Little less tension that way. When you're ready, we'll go to the other side. So find your drishti, your focal point. Decide where you want to put your foot. And maybe get a little longer. Take up a little more space. And gently release and walk it out. Okay, so this next pose you might want to grab hold of a strap. And again, you could back up against the wall for some support. Maybe for you, grabbing your big toe is a better option. We're going to take one leg, bring it up, knee up, high as you can, and then bring the leg forward. So ideally, we want to keep the spine in line with the standing leg. So that's more important than getting the leg high up in the air. If you can get your spine, head still over the hips, you might want to grab hold of your big toe. It's just a practice. It's not too early to pat yourself on the back for showing up. Walk it out. We'll do that same thing on the other side. So lift the other knee, find your drishti. Take that knee up as high as you can. Spine straight. Knee doesn't have to, the leg in the air doesn't have to go straight. Keep it a little bent. Right? Perfect amount of effort and ease. And gently release. So let that go. Take a nice easy twist. So this whole community thing, it's easier for some than others. Like Barbara Brown Taylor, I'm an introvert. That Mary and Martha story, I'm definitely Martha in the kitchen. So we have to work a little harder at the community thing. That's okay. Alrighty. Come on back to the front of the mat. Inhaling, sweep your arms up. Exhaling, sit down into your chair, or just go back to the floor, reverse of how we got here. Ribs to the thighs. Maybe you inhale, let your head hang. Another chance to nod your head yes. Then start to walk your feet back into plank or modified plank, your version. And then inhale, lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. Thigh bones rotating inward slightly. Upper arms rotating outward slightly. Then pull your low belly in, float your knees down. Take another child's pose. So just a couple of upper body stretches. Checking in. First, inhaling, walk your arms over to one side. Maybe stacking the hands and pulling the opposite hip back. Inhale your hands through center, and exhale and go to the other side. And then inhale back to center. Pull your low belly in as you bring your shoulders back over your wrists. So with my knees right over my hips, maybe you curl your toes under, get a nice little foot stretch. We're going to try puppy dog pose, just checking in with that shoulder girdle. So the goal is to keep the elbows straight. Those elbows are rising up towards the ceiling as you drop your rib cage down toward the mat. So go nice and slowly. Maybe your forehead drops to a block or to the mat. Keep those elbows lifted. Drop your sternum. And maybe, for you, you could lift your head and drop your chin. Pull your low belly in and use your hands to walk yourself back to all fours. And then just shift to one side. So we're going to finish with a bridge pose. You could make it, if you're effortless, you could stick a block under your hips. If you need a little more effort in your practice, maybe touching your heels to your fingertips and lifting your hips up in the air. So wherever you decide to go, we're going to stay for 5 breaths. Maybe you'd like to do a full wheel. Just practice safely, no harm. Relax the jaw. Releasing your hands if they were together and exhaling, drop your hips to the mat. Take a moment here just to reset. And then we'll settle in for a brief Shavasana. So maybe you want to stick your lower legs up on a chair or a bolster, or you could go legs up the wall. Keep your knees bent, or maybe stretch out completely. A few deep breaths here. So get your body moving again, 5 or 6 breaths. however you can safely draw your knees into your chest, roll to one side, use your arms to push yourself up to seated. We're going to finish with alternate nostril breathing. So again, finding a place where your spine can be nice and long. Maybe that's on a chair or on a block or a bolster. So you always use your right hand for this, so I won't look like your mirror. So take your right hand, fold the 3 middle fingers in, and then have your palm facing your nose. Close off the right nostril with your thumb. Exhale everything out, and inhale with the left nostril. Then switch. Close the left nostril off, release the right, and exhale through the right. Then inhale through the right. Switch. Exhale through the left. Stay there. Inhale left. Maybe close your eyes. Switch. Exhale through the right. Pinkies on the left nostril. Stay there. Inhale right. Switch. Exhale left. And again, inhale left. Switch. Exhale right. If the speed doesn't work for you, go at your own pace. Inhale right. Switch. Exhale left. Inhale left. Switch. Exhale right. Last time. Inhale right. Switch. Exhale left. When you finished your exhale, just release your hand, rest on your knees. Take a moment to notice your body. Again, hopefully settled and balanced and ready for the practice of encountering others. So I'll finish with this brief quote in this chapter. Barbara Brown Taylor says, "The wisdom of the Desert Fathers includes the wisdom that the hardest spiritual work in the world is to love the neighbor as the self, to encounter another human being not as someone you can use, change, fix, help, save, enroll, convince, or control, but simply as someone who can spring you from the prison of yourself, if you will allow it." So blessings on your practice as you go out, encountering others, the spirit of yoga, no harm, truthfulness, non-stealing, moderation, and non-hoarding. One more opportunity to lengthen your spine as you inhale, and exhale, bow your head to your heart. Thank you for showing up and being your best self so that you can take care of others. The spirit in me honors the spirit in you. Namaste.